Thank you very much for sitting down with me here today. I'd like to just jump right in. What are some of the most significant challenges that you see facing the industry here in the next 12 months?
Obviously, our economy is a big factor. We've come from out of a long period of plenty work, a big backlog that it took us quite a long time to work through. And that's placed us in a different situation than we're used to. Normally the downturn we lag by 12 months, but this one we seem to lag by 24 or 36 months. So our wake up has been longer coming about, and now we're not seeing necessarily the turnaround and the gear back up cycle that we're used to. And it's that long period of a lack of work, uncertainty, that is going to create tremendous stress for our members of our organization, which is, the majority of the commercial industry, in particular in Calgary. Prolonged stress and austerity is going to take its toll on a lot of folks in our industry.
Do you feel like it's even longer lag time than your normal recession or the time it takes to get out of?
The problem is we've been used to a fairly predictable boom, downturn, uptick, repetitive cycle. The durations of each portion of the cycle have maybe been different, but generally speaking, we've been able to exploit good times, gear down when it gets a little tighter, and then get ready for the return. In this case, it took longer for us to realize we needed to gear down. And now we're skidding along the bottom for much longer. And every time we think there's a little bit of hope on the horizon, nope, there's another disappointment, there's another factor. And even when we think of recovery, instead of it being a sharp back to the previous heights, it's probably a long, much slower cycle. And that is tough to come to terms with when you've been used to the repetitive up and down cycle of the last 4 decades, let's say.
Nice. So to switch to the positive here, where do you see the most ideal opportunities over the next 12 to 24 months?
From an opportunities perspective, there is no better time to begin to rethink our businesses. The buildings that we're building in this city are becoming more complex, more demanding, which means our skill as an industry is needed. When we're building things like our new city library, the TELUS Tower, and some of these buildings, there are opportunities for us to get involved on a scale and at a level that is basically raising the bar. So our industry has a lot of opportunity to rise to that challenge. We have new technologies emerging that are allowing us to be more effective. We have a new generation growing up through the industry. We can be training and mentoring and creating our successors. And every recessionary cycle breeds stronger players. And the opportunity is to look at that opportunity for strength.
So people as a resource and as an asset are key there. There's a big strength.
Investing in people properly for the right reasons, with the right intent, and with the right approach is the fastest, most resilient ROI you can ever get as a business.
Absolutely. So then as we look ahead to the evolution of Calgary, what urbanization and development trends do you see over the next decade?
I think that Calgary has begun to think differently about our urban planning. We've seen developments like Quarry Park, which nobody would have predicted possible 20 years ago. Right. The idea of creating a multi-use community of live, work, play, retail all mixed in, that's a major game changer, and it's moved us into this suburban office type of environment, which is very common in other large North American cities, but not so much here. We're seeing more multi-family high-rise development. We're seeing demographic shift of retirees changing the kind of homes and communities they're going to need. Younger demographics that maybe want a smaller footprint and aren't looking for the large single-family home. And now you've got Brookfield and others talking about a second or a third downtown. We are about to mature in a way that is going to dramatically change. Our historic habit has been bedroom community, retail community, work community, and then you need a car to get between all three, and so you now have a car-dominated environment. We have the potential to really learn from other cities and even other countries and really begin some very intelligent development.
Do you feel like the Green Line will have a pretty big impact on that, to helping us getting around to those areas?
The impact of a Green Line or a transit system of any scale is it provides that connection into communities. It provides that alternative and that mobility, which means being further out of the core is less inconvenient when there's a simple means to get backwards and forwards. And if it reduces overall traffic, it doesn't place a burden on you and other drivers having to sit in traffic. It does change the dynamic.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then with that, which new technology or trends in the building industry then do you think will be the game changer to move us forward here?
Our industry has been slow to adopt technology because the investment is often large and sometimes the interruption to the status quo is a little intimidating. I don't have the time to put people into training or step aside. I don't have the capacity to stop producing in order to step aside and learn. And technology has come in many forms. There's, building information modeling, virtual design is absolutely changing that side. The idea of drones and tracking and such. I think the technology that is going to be the real breakthrough will be the technology that removes complexity, time, transactional burdens, transfer of information. That is where our industry gets bogged down right now. And a technology that can really begin to sort that and make that accessible, portable, and effective, it will change the game, because 60 to 70% of the cost of projects is people and labor.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with new technology usually brings a new generation. What advice would you have for the younger generations who are maybe just getting into the industry or thinking about construction as a career?
I think the part of construction as a career that we possibly have missed as an industry is we haven't shown people the scalability of the industry. So sometimes people think, if I get into the construction industry, I'm doing so as a trade, and I have to be in a trade environment to be in the industry. We forget there's project managers, there's estimators, there are all these other jobs. And the biggest thing that I think we miss sharing is construction is the only industry where you can leave high school, maybe even not fully graduate out of high school, start at 18 to 20 bucks an hour pushing a broom around a job site as a casual laborer, go through trade school, graduate out through that process, out of the field into the office, start your own company. Literally, you can span an entire career, which could be 40 years or thereabouts. You started on a broom in a job site and you ended in a boardroom as the CEO of a major construction company. Right. It is a massive scale of opportunity. And for young people looking at that career, think about it that broadly and look for companies that are investing in technology, investing in young people, not as a low-cost source of labor, but as people we want to invest in to build our future and turn, absolutely. Yeah. Companies that value your youth, they don't punish it.
Right.
And companies that realize your youth and your fresh set of eyes is going to have the stamina that that company needs to make it through the changes that are coming.
And do you feel like that's a common theme throughout the industry right now? Are more companies moving in that direction, or is it something we're trying to pull these companies along to kind of get on board with that way of thinking?
I think some companies are very definitely realizing that they have to make that commitment if they want the youth to make the commitment to stick with it.
Right.
Other companies perhaps need a little bit more convincing. But as the older, experienced individuals retire, and that is rapidly picking up pace, as that continues, they are going to have to realize that succession is needed. Yeah. And I think that's part of the role of our association, is to help bring the information that can help these organizations learn and recognize and then access these opportunities.
You mentioned experience. So in your own career, when you look back on it, what's a project that stuck out in your mind as something that was a very memorable and fulfilling project you worked on?
There have been many projects I've worked on over the years, going all the way back to when I lived in Edinburgh. Yeah. And worked on some amazing historic buildings when we were literally restoring historic buildings to their former glory, and seeing hand plaster work being done by artisans and masonry. So there's jobs like that where there was real craft and real skill, and the end result was something restored to its former glory. It's pretty hard to beat that, even though they might have been small scale. On the larger scale, more recent projects, I was involved as a trade contractor in the Calgary airport expansion. And that job was fascinating, if for no other reason than the sheer scale. And when you build airports, you build one. It's unique, it's different. It's not like building a grocery store where it's a formulaic approach. So you're learning new ways of doing your work. You are dealing with new challenges. It was a 4-kilometer walk to leave our trailer, walk the site, and come back to your car. And just the logistics of that. And then participating in a project that took Calgary to another level as a city, and realizing when you check in and go through that airport for the rest of your life, you're going to bug your family going, I remember when they were pulling the steel up there and the beams were 14 foot high, and it's just a great feeling to know you had a chance to be a part of that.
You're definitely getting your 10,000 steps there every day, weren't you?
Yes, no doubt.
Perfect. So what I'll leave you with here is a question with the Olympic bid coming up here, Calgary 2026. What impact do you think that would have on the city and on the industry as a whole and the community?
Well, Olympics are always a sensitive subject, and we are definitely learning that yet again in all the conversations. I believe Calgary needs the Olympic Games. I agree with Todd Hirsch from ATB, who said recently, they are Canada's games, so there's one way of looking at it is it's almost our duty to take our turn. Right. And I don't disagree with that. But our industry and our city, our communities and our country could benefit greatly from the Games. And certainly from an industry perspective, the stimulus of the work that would be involved in new facilities, in renovating and upgrading old facilities, would be a valuable thing to have right now when the industry is struggling to see some of that opportunity. Right. And I think stimulus has two different sides. There's the physical work. I get to participate and I get to bid on, and there's work to chase. Mm-hmm. The other is the emotional stimulus of stuff is happening that is going to create opportunity. It's worth holding on. It's worth finding ways to stick through. I don't need to give up yet. So the psychology would be good for the industry too.
Okay, perfect, Bill. Well, thank you very much for sitting down with me today.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been fun. Thanks, man.
Fantastic.